please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
The government has opened the doors to bureaucracy for the private sector with advertisements across papers. The centre has invited talented and motivated applicants from the private sector for 10 jobs at a pay scale of a joint secretary. So who exactly can apply? Well, if you have the age of 40 with work experience of a minimum of 15 years, you need to be at least a graduate and can apply from the 15th of June till the 30th of July. The 10 jobs available across 10 government ministries, including revenue, financial services, road transport, shipping, environment, renewable energy, civil aviation, among others. Now, the decision to appoint outside experts without clearing the UPSC has sparked a controversy. The Congress party claims the move will sabotage the system and people belonging to the RSS and corporates will influence government decisions. But the government has hit back, saying competent people deserve an opportunity. So will the entry of outside experts bolster the bureaucracy? What about the issues of transparency in the appointment and the potential conflict of interest? Joining us now to take this conversation further, Amitabh Kant, the CEO of the Niti Aayog. Also joining us, KC Singh, former diplomat, K. Sujata Rao, the former health secretary, Dilip Cherian, image consultant. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here. And Sujata Rao, thanks very much for being on CNBC TV18. Mr. Kant, if I could start by asking you, we are given to understand that this decision has been based on recommendations that the Niti Aayog has come up with. Can you explain to us, sir, what is the rationale behind the lateral entry that the government now hopes to take forward?
Shereen, we in Niti Aayog have been experimenting with this process of lateral entry across sectors, and we've got a vast number of people at the policy making level, and I think they bring in a lot of fresh ideas, they bring in a lot of vibrancy, they bring in a lot of energy to the government. Actually, what you need in government is a lot of, on one side, a whole range of officers who've got field experience. But a lot of people at a young age do not join the government. They've gone to different universities, they've done their doctorate, they've done their postdoctorate, they have huge expertise, huge knowledge, and the government must be able to tap into this. And the combination of good lateral talent and who come in on, they're actually coming into the government, but they're going to be here on a contractual basis, whereas you have a vast number of people with field level experience. Both combining together makes for a very good combination. And the challenge really is to ensure that we go through the right processes. We select through a very transparent, very competitive, very merit-based system so that we can attract the best people, the best Indians from across the world into the government system at this stage.
So can you explain to us what that process is going to be? Because I think that is where the misgivings arise. The Congress party says that there is that the government has not articulated very clearly what the selection process is going to be. Can you explain to us? I'm looking at the eligibility criteria, which basically says you've got to be 40, 15 years of experience and so on and so forth. But all appointees will be deemed as public servants for the purpose of the conduct rules. So can you explain to us how this process is going to run, Mr. Kant?
So government has gone about it in a very transparent manner. Government has issued an advertisement. Government has invited applications from across the best talent that is available. And government has defined what are the sectors in which it needs expertise and knowledge. Let people apply, and government will take it through a process of due diligence, and government will take it through a process of a meritorious selection by appointing a special committee for this. So the intention should be that we are able to do this in a very systematic, very professional, and very meritorious based system of selection.
Okay. There is also a question that's being raised about the possibility of a conflict of interest. So both in terms of a cooling off period, because this is a 3 to 5 year contract, according to the press advertisement that the government has put out. What about the potential of conflict of interest that could arise?
Shereen, I think, we should allow, we should get in good people from the academic world, we should get in good people from research world, we should get in good people from the private sector world. But people who are dealing, if they're working in that particular industry or that particular sector, we should ensure that they don't deal with the file of that particular industry. That's the only thing I would like to say about the conflict of interest. But I would also like to say that it can't be a one-way house. In the long run, the government should also think of allowing government officials to move out into the private sector for 3 to 5 years as well. I mean, good professionals, civil servants who have knowledge and expertise and who have the ability to take decisions should be able to go out, get selected, get picked up by the private sector, work there for 3 years and bring in the best practices of the private sector into the government as well. So it should be a both-way process of learning from the private sector and actually government learning from the world of academics, learning from the world of research, learning from the world of private sector. Both ways flow. And I think that in the long run will lead to, one of the major challenges we have in government is that many of us who work for very long periods in government, we become agents of status quo. And we go through so much of rough and tumble of the world of several organizations and several state politics that we become very, very safe and steady. And you need much more risk-taking in government. Yeah. So it's good to get some people from outside who can be the best, who are the best and the most brilliant people from outside and who can bring in a lot of good ideas. Actually, the government does it right now. If you look at the Secretary of Water Resources, Param Iyer, he's from outside. The new
not just in this government, but we've seen lateral entrance previously as well. That's right. I want to pick up on that point that you made about the potential of conflict of interest when you said that
at secretary level.
When you said that people who come from that particular sector shouldn't touch the files, so to speak, of the sectors that they're involved in. So where does that then leave the issue of specialization? But I'll come back to you in just a second, Mr. Kant. We've got a Power Pack panel here with us. R.V. Shahi, the former Power Secretary. Yes, sorry, you were saying?
No, I was saying that they shouldn't be dealing. I think we sometimes take this issue of conflict of interest too far. Many of the policy decisions that we take relate to whole of India. They relate to, but individual files of that particular company that they worked in, they shouldn't be dealing with that. And that we should ensure that there's no conflict of interest as far as dealing with that particular company is concerned.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. R.V. Shahi, who was a former Power Secretary, was also a lateral entrant, so to speak. He was the Chairman and Managing Director of Power Distributor BSES before taking charge as the Power Secretary in 2002. Mr. Shahi, you've seen the ad that the government has put out asking for people to apply for 10 positions across different ministries. What do you believe need to be the checks and balances to ensure that while the government does bring in outside expertise and specialization, that the bureaucracy need not only be the repository of wisdom and knowledge, but what do you believe the government ought to do to ensure that there are enough checks and balances in place?
No, I think I welcome this initiative. This is a great initiative that government has thought. And I was listening to what Amitabh was saying, the CEO of Niti Aayog. I entirely agree and endorse whatever comments he has made, that one, that it should be a two-way process. We should have government people from administrative and other services going to industry and business and having some freshness of exposure, coming back to the government. And we should have people from industry coming to the government and then going back. I think that will be a great initiative to be implemented, and everybody should work on this. I don't think that conflict of interest point can be stressed beyond an issue, because I myself had different role in different places, and I could definitely very successfully address that matter. Power Secretary of the Government of India, do I take care of NTPC where I worked for 16 years? Do I take care of steel industry sale where I worked for 12 and odd years? Do I take care of the interest of VSSC? A person who is honest and whose integrity is beyond doubt does not go by where he worked. He has to be loyal to the chair He has to be loyal to the responsibility that is entrusted to him. That is most important. Conflict of interest theory, I mean, see, if somebody is working somewhere as an employee, he is not the owner, that he becomes so much attached to that he will do something bad for the new assignment.
No, it's not a question.
Something great.
It's not a question merely of ownership, sir.
Something great for the old assignment. So I think this conflict of interest theory has to be seen with some degree of analysis. If you are getting an owner from a company who is owning, and then therefore if he comes in a different position and is going to hell. I worked in NTPC as on a salary. That's it. That I did my job for NTPC. When I worked in government, there could be occasion where NTPC case is being considered. Just because I worked in NTPC, therefore I will go in favor of NTPC cannot be the case. What is the conflict of interest?
Sure.
There is no interest in NTPC where I work beyond the point I worked. If I own NTPC, the situation will be different. So therefore, this distinction has to be clearly made. Let us all welcome this initiative. Let us support this initiative. Fine-tuning as we go along, we can always do. So I think it's a good start at the Joint Secretary level, and it should happen. And I agree that it should be both ways, cross-fertilization of experience, cross-fertilization of ideas, and it should be given a good trial, and let us see how it works.
Well, I want to focus on the fine-tuning that you refer to, Mr. Shaheen. I think that's the point that I was trying to get at as well. Dilip Cherian, you've been writing about this for a while now. It's not necessarily a new idea. This idea has been experimented with in the past, but this is the first time that the government is sort of putting some kind of institutional process in place for the kind of lateral hiring that they intend to do. In terms of the fine-tuning that Mr. Shahi spoke of, what is it that you would like to see?
You know, Shereen, this is, as you indicated, an idea which has been tried before. So there's no doubt that experiments have happened in the past which have worked, which have then died, partially because the central bureaucracy has an ability to choke and chew up almost any new idea which may come along. So this is a great initiative by a government. It's a tempting initiative to start with. To do it so close to the elections, not such a good idea. You should have really done it in the first year of government when you had...
so you have misgivings about the timing?
You were going to be able to give them a clear 3-year run without worrying about, you know, what happens with the next government. Because essentially, this is a political decision to do this tinkering. In terms of your specific question of what are the fine-tuning things that need to be done, I think this question of conflict of interest is vastly overblown. It's not relevant because anyone who works in government, especially at a joint secretary level, knows he has an underling and a super boss who is going to be checking for all of this and making sure that she or he, whoever is in the position, does not go unchecked. But what will really require fine-tuning as we go along is, for example, things like, are we paying them enough to attract the right kind of people? 2, are we making sure that they have the real powers of a joint secretary who is arguably the most functionally powerful person within any government? And the third thing that they will need to figure out is how does this fit into the UPSC system so that the UPSC, which has had an impeccable track record so far, gives a seal of approval so that this is not questioned by a further government or anybody else who may go to court, because that's bound to happen within this process. But having seen what happened in demonetization, this is a government which is quite capable of doing fine-tuning on any policy that it takes forward. So it's all right. I'm sure that they have the openness to be aware that there will be some things they will need to change.
Okay, let me bring in Sujata Rao, former Health Secretary, as well as KC Singh, the former diplomat, both with us. Sujata Rao, let me ask you now, in terms of fine-tuning, I think there is consensus that this is a good idea to try and bring in outside expertise and more specialization into the Indian bureaucracy. And as both Mr. Shah and Mr. Kant have said, that there should be cross-fertilization, i.e. the move of Indian bureaucrats to the private sector as well. But in terms of the checks and balances, the safeguards, the issue of the UPSC, in fact, enveloping this move, what do you believe needs to be done?
Well, the selection process itself will set the tone, whether it's political or it's really merit-based. You know, if it is just going to be on an interview basis with somebody and they're selected, it will not be transparent and there will be questions asked. So it has to be based by a third party. Somebody like UPSC can certainly make it seem a little bit more objective. But Shereen, in this whole discussion, if you, with your permission, I would like to just make one point, because I'm not sure if I can stay here for the whole time. But, you know, the point here is that it's a good idea. I agree with most of the comments made by the previous speakers. It's also not a new idea. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi started this whole business of trying to remove the IAS and replace it with a more modernized system of civil service. Yeah. We've had a lot of lateral entries. I myself worked under one such lateral entry appointee. So I know its weaknesses and strengths, and this whole business of IAS officers being seconded to private sector and all was also considered and then not taken up further, and people should go through why that was so. So I think this is, and 10 people being recruited isn't going to make much of a difference. I mean, it's okay, you can experiment it again. But I have 2 points, and I think these are important points. One is policy making is nothing with ideas and motivation. Good ideas can easily be taken in by the government by having expert committees. In Karnataka, Kiran Mazumdar is a chair of the whole strategy for bringing in technology and so on and so forth. Whatever the committee decides, and the concerned secretary makes it into a policy program. So, you know, ideas, several more ideas that we need to take in, and there are several systems and instruments available with government to get them in. You don't have to actually appoint somebody to give you a good idea. So policy making, on the other hand, Shereen, you will agree with me, I think, and is that it requires an understanding of the institutional framework in which policy is contextualized. You know, it's just not a great idea I have and I bring out a GO. No, it's not like that. You have to understand the institutional structure and the institutional context. And I feel many of these lateral appointees, and I can't name them to substantiate my statement because it may not be appropriate, but if you scan through it yourself, you'll find many of them could not really do their best only because they lack this understanding of the institutional context in which they are operating. You know, you can't just cut and paste an idea and bring it in. You have to understand the context. And I feel the lateral entries will come in. It'll take them a good 2 years to settle down and understand the whole thing. And then by that time, it may be time to leave or maybe continued. I don't know what happens. The second point I wanted to make was, you know, is the Prime Minister kind of saying by this signaling that in this whole bureaucracy of IAS, we don't have any talented people? Isn't Amitabh Kant also a part of the bureaucracy? So, you know, the point is, and how much he has done in these 2 years. So the question is, do we have a human resources policy? There's so much of nepotism, that is, the whole ACR system is so flawed. Why is it that instead of doing the surgery that the IAS system requires, we are still doing Band-Aid kind of solutions? I just don't understand.
Fair point. Let me get...
You know, for example, I just want to end one more sentence. I want to take my own example. By good fortune, I had the fortune of working in the health sector for 20 years. I really think I understand the nuances and the whole sector only because I had the opportunity of working my way through from a director to a union secretary. Okay? Now, why is it that what stops the DOPT of picking up 10 people who are potential union secretaries 15 years before and exposing them at the state and the union level to the health sector? So by the time they become secretaries, they know what needs to be done. We don't have such policies, and nobody wants to do that. Just getting some consultants from a private sector and they speak good English and putting them there, you think it will make any difference? I don't think so. But anyway, it's not a bad idea.
All right. I'll get Amitabh Kant to respond to that, but let me also get in Ambassador K.C. Singh. Mr. Singh, you've heard what Sujata Rao has to say. She believes that this is more of a band-aid as opposed to a long-lasting solution, and also disagrees with the idea that there isn't enough specialization or talent within the service that could be honed to take up these roles. A quick comment from you on the fine-tuning that you would like to see and the questions that you have before I get to Mr. Kant.
You see, firstly, a general comment that if you're going to be bringing in people, the track record is not particularly good of this government, because, you know, then the ideological thing comes in. When we see in Doordarshan or other places, the way the people have been picked up. When you bypass the UPSC, how do you have an ideology-neutral methodology of picking up what you consider as talent? That is the first thing, and there would always be a subjective element to it. And we have a permanent bureaucracy. It's a system that we've inherited from the British. And in any case, the bureaucracy is not supposed to be the policy makers. The policy is made by the government and is supposed to develop it in the parliament through parliamentary committees, their oversight, not to reduce it to experts within the ministries. You're really diminishing the role of parliamentary committees, which in any case have been reduced to really a nullity. So therefore, you're creating now, it's actually impatience. You're not able to deliver. So it's a quarreling, a workman quarreling with his tools. That's not going to change anything. And as Sujata said, over a period of time, specialization in any case develops. We have people in the external affairs who keep doing multilateral work and become specialists. There are people who specialize in disarmament or specialize in environment. But what has happened is that we have huge gaps of knowledge within the ministries, and there is no harm bringing in experts on a contractual basis. I don't see why you have to call them JS or additional secretary, because then you're tinkering with a certain structure which is there. And if they come in, then the structure starts, rejecting them or quarreling them or not really working with them. But ministers can have advisors. PM has advisors. PMs have always had advisors. And as Sujata said, there's Niti Ayog. What is the role of Niti Ayog? That is meant to be the think tank. Now, if the think tank cannot do the thinking, now you want the thinking to be done by the joint secretaries. No policy is made at the JS level. They are, yes, decision makers. Yeah.
Let me take all of that across to Amitabh Kant. Mr. Kant, you've heard both what Ambassador K.C. Singh as well as Sujata Rao had to say, as well as Dilip Cherian, and the comments that they made about this being a band-aid, this not really being a lasting solution. And why is it that we're outsourcing this business of coming up with ideas, and we believe that it is going to happen by bringing in people necessarily from the outside? And is this much ado about nothing? I mean, we're perhaps starting with 10. Maybe this will be extended. We're talking about a 3 to 5 year tenure for these people. I mean, is this much ado about nothing? Is this another experiment that we've seen happen in the past?
Shereen, I'm not able to figure this out. What is this criticism about? Because we have about 450 plus joint secretaries in Government of India. We're talking about just 10 joint secretaries coming in from outside. There's a lot of disruption taking place across the world. A wide range of new things are happening. Look at artificial intelligence, look at blockchain, look at a vast number of things that are happening. I mean, we need to bring in a lot of fresh thinking into the government. And, this is nothing new. It's been happening for a long time. No, when I joined the service, actually the economic, I came into Commerce Ministry in my first posting, and the economic advisors were all taken from outside and they brought in. And I remember sitting with Rakesh Mohan all the time, and he used to provide a lot of insights into the economy. And I think a lot of secretaries today, quite a few of them, are actually lateral entries. So all that I'm saying is that the process of selection must be transparent, competitive, and totally merit-based. And I think it's important, it's very, very important to get, and let me tell you, it's in the interest of India as a country, as a nation, it's very important that we must be able to attract some of the best and brightest people. Many people don't sit for the UPSC, but there are a whole lot of brilliant people outside. We must give opportunity to some of these bright and brilliant people to work with the government, to transform the government. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good for the country.
Sujata Rao, you wanted to make a quick point.
Look, Shereen, I think you put it beautifully. Much ado about nothing. Really speaking, these 10 are not going to make any great, disrupt anything or anything like that. And it's a welcome. I mean, they can come in. But what I'm saying is this should not be seen. The whole system of bureaucracy requires serious attention from the top. And instead of looking at those reforms, and you ask any chairman of UPSC, he will show you a room full of ideas that they put out to say how this has to be improved. No action, no decisions are taken. So this is what, it's very frustrating that very long-awaited reform is just kind of passed over by saying we'll recruit some 10 guys into this place. Secondly, I think India and what Amitabh is saying, those kind of people will not really come for this joint secretary kind of piddly post. Okay, and we need really innovative ideas, a smart-up type of people. You have committees. Many ministries don't allow their windows to be kept open.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to change. And this Niti Aayog and the PMO can very well make the working of many ministries change by having expert committees, let experts interact with bureaucrats, and let that be going on. I mean, just having these 10 people, it's neither here nor there. Who really cares? Actually, I don't care.
Okay. All right. Neither here nor there. Dilip Cherian, final comments from you. Mr. Kant, I'll get you to wrap things up. Dilip.
I would say that, this is an idea clearly whose time has come. We need scale, we need speed, and we need transparency. If you combine all these three and give them a global scale to work on, then you might be able to get great people to work in an important job.
Okay. KC Singh, final words, sir.
Look, you need structural change. I had put up a paper when Pranab Mukherjee was there. We are still, say, in external affairs, a ministry which has divided the world territorially. Other advanced ministries are dealing subject-wise. You have to do structural reform. 5-10 guys here and there are not going to make any difference. And we already have experts coming in from outside. We can get some more. But this is a government in its last year not able to deliver, now looking, as you rightly put it, for band-aids. And it's not going to work.
Okay. Amitabh Kant, the need of the hour is structural reforms. It's a good experiment. It's been tried in the past. Perhaps it will bring in some fresh ideas as you like. But if you can leave us with some details on who this selection committee, who will be part of the selection committee that will eventually decide who these 10 people will be.
So, Shereen, actually this is one step in a series of reforms that have been carried out. Moving away from ACRs into a 360-degree perspective, moving away from just financial and physical monitoring to outcome-based monitoring, the Prime Minister himself doing this Pragati monitoring to push infrastructure on ground, a lot of push towards digitization of the government across several areas. I think this is just one step in the whole thing. And to my mind, just coming in of 10 JSs in about 450 plus JSs is just one little step. Actually, you need many more direct recruits, to my mind, at the director level, because the director level, there's huge vacancies. For a long period of time, the recruitment levels were kept very low, and there aren't very many officers. So you need at the director level very many lateral entries so that they could bring in very many great ideas and then become implementing arms of the government. But the crux is that my own experience in Niti Aayog has been very, very good. I've found people who've come in and who are sector specialists across health, across nutrition, on education. Many of them, or data analysts, many of them have done some very remarkable work in Niti Aayog, and I think it's a very refreshing move. It's a welcome move. It's a very welcome move. The critical thing is that the process the process of selection must be totally sound. It must be totally transparent. It must be competitive, and it must be done in a manner where everybody realizes that we've selected the best people available in the world to work for Government of India.
All right, Mr. Kant, appreciate you joining us here. That's the CEO of Niti Aayog. Also with us, former Ambassador KC Singh, Sujata Rao, the former Health Secretary, Ms. R.V. Shai, the former Power Secretary, and Dilip Cherian. Thanks very much for your views and your thoughts and on joining us on this discussion here this evening. That's a wrap then on the CNBC TV18 special. We're back with more. Don't go anywhere.